All right. Uh, so let's get into Unit 1, Foundations of Environmental Systems and Societies. I apologize in advance if my dog is groaning. He's kind of old. It's late at night. He makes noises sometimes. We just have to deal with it if it gets caught on the microphone. Um, but yeah, this is the first unit of the course. Um, and again, it's the foundations, it's the very basic things. And to start out, again, we are ESL students in here. So we're going to learn some vocabulary, okay? And this is actually very important because many scientific words are put together in different parts, okay? And I will point them out in class. So maybe you don't know what a word like abiotic means. But if I tell you that a means not, bio means life, and tic, right, in this case would be like an adjective, then it means like something that's not alive, right? You can kind of guess the meaning from it. Okay, so we're going to go through this. These are some very common word parts that we will see in this course, but also in this chapter, Unit 1. So the first one is bio. Again, we've used it a lot already. It means life, right? So biology, right? This is the study of life. That's what it means. Logi means study. Okay, eco is environment. Ecology, right? The study of the environment. Okay, and then we have here anthropo. This is less common, but we'll see it in this chapter. Anthropo means human. Okay, and then techno means technology. Centro is a word root, the center of it, and it means centered on or focused on. Okay, and then these suffixes, ic is what we use to make it an adjective. Ism is a belief or belief system, and ist is a person who practices a belief. So let's practice with this, okay? So we see this word, ecocentric. We might not know what this word, we see it, it's a big word. It's an uncommon word. Maybe English speakers don't know what it means because it's a scientific word, right? But if we know that eco means environment, centro means focused on, and ic is an adjective, we can make a guess on the meaning. So again, the meaning is pretty much focused on the environment, right? And it's an adjective, right? So we see here, and this is my best guess at translating, but 生态中心的, right? So this is ecocentric, right? Ecocentrism is very similar, right? It's environment, eco, centro, focused on, and then ism, a belief system. Put it all together, a belief system focused on the environment. Ecocentrist, this ist ending often means like a job or a person. We often think of a person. Think like a dentist, an artist, right? Ecocentrist, okay? So in this case, put it all together, a person with a belief system focused on the environment. All right? And we could do this with these other words. Anthropo, anthropocentric, anthropocentrism, anthropocentrist. We're going to see these words, and if you know these beginning parts, these word parts, it might make it easier to remember. So that's why I bring it up. In science, it's often word parts put together, and hopefully it will help you remember some of these hard words, these long words. Okay, so let's talk about environmental value systems. This I will spend a lot of time on, actually, because it's very important to understand. It's very common to end up on the test as an essay question. Okay? So we need to know it in depth, right? To be able to understand it very well. So environmental value systems. To start off, let's do this last word. System. Okay? What is a system? So a system is a set of parts that work together that make the whole function. Generally, the whole is more efficient than all the parts. So we see here, this is a subway system. This is the Shanghai subway system. They all connect together, and it is quicker to go places than if it was just one line, right? If it was just one route and you wanted to go over to the left side, if it was this pink line and you need to go to the left side, it would take a very long time. But if you can connect to the different lines, you would get there much quicker. We see this all over. Many things are systems. Like your computer is a system. Your car is a system. Most technology is a system. Your body is a system. It's many different parts put together. But when you put it together, something better comes out of it, right? Your heart by itself is just nothing, right? It's just cells. But you put it together with all these different organs, then it becomes a human and becomes life, right? Can you have systems that interact with other systems? Yes, you can. In fact, we do it all the time, right? I am a system. I am working on a computer. So I am one system working with another system, right? The subway system, maybe when you leave the subway system, you now go to the bus system, right? Or you get a taxi cab or DD, right? Something like that. And these systems will help you get places faster. So yeah, since systems often work together, it's in fact pretty uncommon for them to work alone. Okay. As another example, we see here the ecological cycles, right? So these are different cycles in the environment. Put the translation over on the left side, okay? But you see here carbon cycle, the phosphorus cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the water cycle, the oxygen cycle. They all work together. They're all systems on their own, but they interact with each other. They're not by themselves. And together, they help make up the biosphere. So again, bio, we learned this. Bio means life. Sphere means ball. So biosphere, think of it as like the kind of the area where all living things happen, right? So these all work together in conjunction, and they end up being more efficient as a result. We're not going to do that because this is not my normal class, but we're going to talk about systems diagrams. So first, so these are pictures that you might see in this class. You might see it on the test. So we need to learn what they are. So a system diagram looks like this. Okay, so you have arrows, you have boxes and other arrows. The box here we see are storages. Okay, a storage in many cases can be like a storage of matter, for example. Okay, it's a place where something is held. Could be like, for example, water, right? A water, like a lake. Okay, the rivers connect it, but the lake is where it's stored, and the things like that. The flows are these arrows. So this is flows of energy and matter. Okay, they go into the storage, and then these outputs here, the ones pointing away from the box, are your outputs. Okay, this is maybe hard to understand, but we will review it as we go along. Okay, and you will see examples that help explain it a little bit better. Okay, so again, at the bottom we see here, thinking about your values system. What are the inputs and outputs? So when you think about your values, what goes into it and what goes out of it. So if we think about your values, the inputs, maybe politics, education, culture, religion, media, those are the inputs. They help construct your environmental worldview. So your view of the world, the environment, right? The way that you view these environmental issues. Okay, it's all influenced by these different things. And then the outputs, okay, are the decisions, perspectives, and courses of action. Okay, that's what you do. Okay, so if, for example, you live in a developing country, okay, a very poor country, and you're barely surviving, right? You may not worry so much about the environment because you're focused on other things, right? You don't care about the effects of your actions because you're just trying to survive, right? Whereas if you're a little bit richer or in a developed country, you might think about these things because you make a choice, right? You are surviving, but now it's about, am I going to be wasteful or not? Or will I be more helpful for the environment? Okay, so things like this, your background, will affect your decisions, okay, and your opinions, by the way. Now, environmental value system, it has a difficult definition and a simple definition, but I'm going to give you the difficult one first because this is what the IB says. The IB definition is a worldview or paradigm. So these are just ways of viewing an issue that shapes the way an individual or group of people perceives, okay, this is like experiences or like understand something, and evaluates environmental issues influenced by cultural, religious, economic, and socio-political context. So it's basically what that's saying is it's a worldview that shapes the way people and groups view environmental issues, and it is shaped by their cultural, religious, financial, and political backgrounds. Okay? So it's how you see the world, right? It's how you see the environment. It's how you view environmental issues. And that didn't just come from nowhere. That came from your childhood. That came from your city. Came from your country, your religion, your politics. So this is all important in shaping how you think about the environment. Again, it's environmental value system. Put it together, it means what it says. It's your values about the environment. It's a system, right? It's a system of your values about the environment. Okay, excuse me. And again, an even a quick summary of the three different main environmental value systems. We have ecocentrism, anthropocentrism, and technocentrism. Again, we learn these vocabulary words. Eco means nature or the environment. Centro is focused on, or the center. And then ism is a belief system. So this is a belief system focused on the environment. This one, anthropocentrism, a belief system centered on people or humans. This one, a belief system centered on technology. So in short words, in other words, nature-centered, human-centered, technology-centered. Those are the three main environmental value systems. And now we're going to talk about the detailed explanation. Okay, so again, the important word parts: eco, environment. Okay, that gives you the most meaning of this word. Anthropo means human. Okay, and then techno is technology. The core belief of each of these. So ecocentrism, the core belief of ecocentrism is that nature has intrinsic value. It is not simply for human use. Let me explain that. Intrinsic value. It means it has like natural value. It has value on its own. So if sometimes we view the environment as something we can use, it's valuable because we can use it. Well, ecocentrists say, no. It's valuable because all living things are valuable. So even plants, animals, they're valuable just because they're living, right? It has natural value. Okay, it's not simply for human use. And that's a key part of ecocentrism. It's environment-centered. The environment is very important. Humans are not the most important thing. The environment is the most important thing. Anthropocentrism. Again, human is the key word here. And the core belief is human needs and interest are the most important. So this is about humans, right? What do we want? We can use the environment for ourselves. The environment is there for our use. And that's a way of viewing the environment. And then technocentrism, again, the key word is technology. And the idea is that technology can solve environmental problems. Okay? That's the key idea. We go a little bit more. The approach. Okay? How do we solve these problems? Okay? Right? So ecocentrism supports preserving the environment for its own sake. Okay? So it's not because we need to use it, it's because living things are important. They have natural rights. So that's what the ecocentrist believes. Anthropocentrist thinks we should use nature as a resource for human use. So if we need it, we can use it, right? And then technocentrist supports sustainable development through technological advancement. Again, the key word here is technology. They support improving things, developing things through technology. And then the human role. Again, how should we behave? Ecocentrist believes humans should live harmoniously within nature. So not on top of the food chain, right? We don't take as much as we need. We live within nature, okay? We are one small part of it, and we try not to hurt the environment because the environment is very important. We should be in harmony with nature. Anthropocentrism believes humans should manage the environment. Because again, I think they believe that if we need to use the environment, we need to take care of the environment. If we want wood for our houses, then we need to take care of the forest so that we have wood in the future. So that's a key part of it. We should manage the environment. We should take care of the environment. Finally, we have technocentrism. Humans should solve the problem through innovation. Innovation meaning like technological development. We create new technologies to solve these problems. Okay, so those are the main points about environmental value systems. So you need to know all three, and you need to know the differences between them and their beliefs. I think sometimes my students remember the idea, but they forget the vocabulary word. Ecocentrism, anthropocentrism, technocentrism. So try to remember them. It will be very important. So some big picture ideas about environmental value systems. One is that environmental value systems are individual, and there is no wrong environmental value system. So I could be an anthropocentrist. You could be a technocentrist. I am not right. You are not wrong. You are not right. I am not wrong. These are all just our values. So everybody is a little bit different, right? Everyone has different views. That is the main point to remember. And then also, environmental value systems are a framework with limits. Okay? It is oversimplified. People may change their environmental value systems depending on the situation. People also may not fit neatly into an environmental value system. So what does this mean? So this means is basically, this is a simple guide, right? It is not perfect, right? It's just a way of thinking about the world. It's the way of thinking about the environment, okay? And for example, maybe when I was younger, I was an ecocentrist. And now that I'm older, I'm a technocentrist. I changed, right? Possibly, I watched some videos and it changed my perspective, for example. Or perhaps I'm 70% ecocentrist, 30% anthropocentrist. I don't fit neatly into one or the other. I kind of mix depending on the situation, okay? Maybe sometimes I believe technocentrists have the right answer. Sometimes anthropocentrists have the right answer. So it really depends on the situation. So this environmental value systems are very oversimplified, but they're a way of thinking about the environment. So now let's think of, or let's look at some examples of environmental value system solutions. Okay, so let's imagine we have a polluted river. Okay, how do we solve this, right? Different EVSs might have different solutions for this problem. So for example, an ecocentrist might think that the individual should help clean up the river. You can go there on the weekend. You can go and help out nature. If you know that this is happening, you can go clean it up. Additionally, maybe the ecocentrist might think that individuals have a responsibility not to pollute the river in the first place. So to throw away your waste in the trash can or the rubbish bin. All right. They might also believe in creating a nature reserve around the river. So no humans can use the area around the river. That protects this ecosystem. With no humans there, there will be no pollution. And then this is better because now that ecosystem is going to be healthier, right? So because they value the environment, they might advocate or show support for things like a nature reserve, okay, to create a special area around the river that humans cannot build. An anthropocentric person might believe we should try to create laws to penalize polluters or create incentives for businesses that don't pollute. Anthropocentric solutions often have to do with laws or incentives trying to, so an incentive is like money, trying to make people do something. So we create a law that fines a company if they are polluting into the river, or we give businesses money if they don't pollute. Okay, this is a common anthropocentric solution. Maybe they try to advocate for government solutions to solve the problem. Or they might try to create a public debate for solutions. What's the best solution so that we can have businesses in the area and help the economy, but also not pollute in the river. So that's another thing that might happen. And then finally, technocentric solutions. These are, again, focused on technology. Create innovative technologies that can quickly clean the river. Okay? So, again, create new technologies. That's the whole thing. But also, scientific research into biodegradable packaging. You may not know this word, biodegradable, but we already saw this prefix, bio. Bio means life, right? Able, you might know this word. It means you can do something. To degrade something means to break it down. So you put it all together. That means packaging that is able to be broken down by life, or in this case, bacteria or algae, something like that. So if this packaging here, these bottles, could break down and then be naturally disposed of, that would be a good solution for the problem. Okay, so they advocate for scientific research. Okay, here's a long slide, lots of words, a little hard, but we see the next slide, we have the Chinese translation, because again, it might be a little bit too hard to understand some of these things. Now, once again, we see here for ecocentrism, the prefix bio. You don't know bio rights, but you know the word rights, and you know now that bio means life. So this is life rights, okay? And that's what it means. It means ecocentrists want to protect the rights of all living creatures and nature and educate the community on the importance of nature and bio rights, okay? So again, this is what it is in Chinese. And you can pause the video if you need to look at it real quick, but I'm going to continue on. Lifestyle changes for self-sufficiency. Encourage organic farming, permaculture, and sustainable living communities. Okay, what does this mean? Okay, and again, I'll switch over. So to be self-sufficient means to be able to take care of yourself, right? To help yourself. So maybe you grow your own food. Maybe you create your own energy, for example. Maybe you have solar energy. And you live sustainably. Sustainably means basically without wasting or harming, right? Able to sustain without taking from the environment. We will talk about sustainability in a different chapter, more in depth, or different part of this unit, but we'll get there. Okay? And then finally, encourage self-restraint. Okay, that means you don't waste and you buy less. Don't buy. So, like for example, in America, in Los Angeles, where I live, everybody owns a car, right? So if there's 4 people in a family, there's 4 cars. Maybe that's a little wasteful, right? Maybe we can have 2 cars and share it. Or maybe we have 1 car and share it and use the bus. That would be a better solution for the environment. And also educate people on the importance of sustainable living. Okay, and again, this is the Chinese translation. We're going to go to anthropocentrism now. And again, anthropocentrism focuses on the government, taxes, laws, things like this. So environmental taxes and regulations. Using carbon taxes, pollution levies, and strict regulations on industries to reduce environmental impact while sustaining economic growth. So basically, having laws and taxes to reduce pollution and environmental impact, right? That's the whole point of this. And then legislation is like laws for sustainable management. Create laws that ensure the sustainable use of resources such as quotas for fishing, logging restrictions, and guidelines for land use. So quota is like a limit. You can't use more than this. So, for example, maybe the government will not allow a fisherman to catch more than this number of fish every year, or a company to catch more than this amount of fish every year. There's a limit. We call that a quota. Okay? And then finally, public debates. Promote public debates and discussions to reach pragmatic is like realistic, solutions that balance environmental concerns with human needs and economic development. So, yes, we want to help the environment, but we also want to help the economy. We have to balance these things. And to do that, maybe we need to debate in public. Okay? And then finally, technocentrism. Technocentrism is about technology, again. Technological innovation for environmental problems. Maybe we create new renewable energy sources, electric vehicles, things like that. We conduct scientific research, okay, so that we can understand the problem a little bit better, right? And then also, believe it or not, economic growth, okay? Technocentrists believe that technology will solve all problems. So we don't really need to worry about it. So the best way to develop technology is to grow your economy. The richer a country is, the better their technology will be. The better their technology is, the better they'll be able to solve these environmental problems. So it's actually good to grow the economy. Okay? So using nature for the economy is fine and encouraged, because in the end, it will all work out. And again, this is Chinese translation. You can pause the video if you want to look at it, but we're going to move on. So now let's look at environmental value systems as a spectrum. Okay? So a spectrum is like a line. Okay, this arrow, this yellow arrow is a spectrum, excuse me. Okay, so in the IBESS guide, it says there is a spectrum of EVSs from ecocentric through anthropocentric to technocentric value systems. Okay, so what this means is that you can think of it as a line. Over here, ecocentric, over here is anthropocentric, over here is technocentric. And the point is that it's not so much three different value systems and you're just one of the three. Maybe you're here in between anthropocentrism and technocentrism. You're a little bit of both. Or maybe you're between ecocentrism and anthropocentrism. It's not all or nothing. It's a little of each. So that's the point. I personally do not agree with the idea of viewing it as a spectrum, as a line, because I think it's very possible to be both ecocentric and technocentric, and a line doesn't really show that. Okay? What does show that is something like this. Okay? You can be ecocentric and technocentric. You could be anthropocentric and technocentric, or you could be a little bit of all three in the middle. Okay, so this is a different way of viewing this idea, but the important thing is that you realize that it's not just I am ecocentric and that's it. Most people are a little bit of many, or both, or two different, right? So it's a spectrum between the two here. It's not all or nothing. That's kind of the main point here. Okay. Another thing here to take in. There are other belief systems, not just the three I mentioned. They are related to these belief systems, but they also exist. So, for example, a deep ecologist is a type of ecocentrist. A human manager, or an environmental manager, is a type of anthropocentrist, and a cornucopian is a type of technocentrist. Okay, and we should learn these. Okay, so I don't know if this is still in your book. Maybe you have a different book than I have, but in the book that I had, it had this graph, and this graph was nonsense. It didn't really make sense to me. Okay, for a number of reasons, I'll go over it. In reality, for the test, this is really more like it should be. Okay, so we have ecocentrist over here, and types of ecocentrist include deep ecologist and soft ecologist. Okay, a type of anthropocentrist are these environmental managers, not mangers. That's misspelled. Managers. Okay, these are people. Again, anthropocentrists believe that a human or humans should take care of the environment. So this is really more of an anthropocentric idea. And then finally, technocentrist. A type of them is cornucopians. Now, another thing, again, this is what you should remember. I'm going to show you something very complicated in a second, but for the test, this is what you should remember. In reality, this is really what it's like. Okay? There are parts of anthropocentrism in soft ecology. There's parts of technocentrism in soft ecology. For example, maybe soft ecologists try to balance nature, the needs of nature, with the needs of man. And they might use technology to solve their problems. Okay? So in that sense, they're a little bit of all three. Okay? But traditionally, for the test, they are ecocentrist. And you can make the argument for all three of these, right? So, for example, cornucopians, they are technocentrists, yes, but they believe that humans are way more important than the environment. So in that sense, they're very similar to anthropocentrist, okay? But you don't need to know that, okay? The main point is that these environmental value systems rarely fit simply or perfectly into any classification. Okay, so even if traditionally a soft ecologist is an ecocentrist and you consider yourself a soft ecologist, that doesn't mean you're not a little bit anthropocentric or a little bit technocentric. And this is a quote, again, straight from the IB ESS guide. These environmental value systems rarely fit simply or perfectly into any classification. Okay, so it's basically saying Yes, this is a simple diagram that helps you understand, but in reality, it's not important. Or it's not that simple, excuse me. So that's the main point. You don't have to remember this chart, but you have to remember that main point. Okay, but we need to talk about these different environmental value systems. Okay, now before we start, let me talk about why we need to learn these things. So on the test, it is very common to see a question about environmental value systems. Often, it is an essay question, right? It is a 9-point essay question. And you need to know how to explain all three: anthropocentrism, technocentrism, ecocentrism. Now, you can do that without mentioning any of these branches of thought. But if you want to mention them, you can. And it adds a little bit more to your essay, right? It's a little unlikely, in my opinion, that you will get a question about these environmental value systems on their own. They're typically added to a question about environmental value systems that are mostly concerned about the three main ones, right? So you won't get a question on the test like asking you, what is a deep ecologist and what do they believe in? I don't believe you will ever get a question like that. But you can use this information to help strengthen and deepen your answers on these essay questions about environmental value systems. So to start off, let's talk about deep ecology. So deep ecologist, you can consider them like an extreme version of an ecocentrist. Okay, a deep ecologist, but they believe that nature has value beyond its usefulness to humans. And that's what something an ecocentrist and a deep ecologist would agree in. Just maybe a deep ecologist would believe it stronger, right? A deep ecologist is more spiritual or philosophical than regular ecocentrist. So if I say I'm a deep ecologist, maybe I have views about nature that are very philosophical, about why nature has these intrinsic rights and we should protect nature, or that we are in harmony with nature, right? That's something you might see more with deep ecologists. Additionally, deep ecologists often support more extreme changes in how we live to protect nature. And they are pretty extreme. So they might suggest reducing human population or living in ways that have a very small impact on the environment. Why would they do this? Okay, again, an ecocentrist believes that the environment is just as important as humans, if not more important. Okay? So some people believe if humans disappeared, the environment would be very healthy, would thrive, would get better, right? It would grow. So maybe, in that sense, if you believe that the environment is more important than humans and have just as many rights or more rights than humans, you might think of humans as being a problem. Now, they might also believe, again, having a small impact on the environment. So maybe they grow their own food, or they live not in the city, they live out in the countryside, and they don't have a car. They ride a bike or they walk everywhere because they don't want to pollute the environment. So they're living in a way that's very environmentally friendly because they think the environment is very, very important. Regular ecocentrists also support actions that protect the environment, but are often more practical. So they don't advocate, they don't support reducing population, but they might focus on things like recycling or protecting endangered species or reducing pollution. Okay? Soft ecology. Okay? So this is also a type of ecocentrist. Now this term, I'll be honest, not so common. If you go on the internet and look for it, you probably won't find lots of information on it. Deep ecologist is very common and very famous. Soft ecology is not as famous. But if you need to write about it on the test, you might mention something like this: self-sufficiency in resource management. In other words, growing your own food, collecting your own water, and using solar panels. So it's just about being self-sufficient. Okay? And maybe they balance their anthropocentric and ecocentric views. They're more ecocentric, but they also, maybe believe that there should be a little bit more of a balance than a deep ecologist would. Okay? Environmental managers. So this is, again, anthropocentric. Okay? They focus on creating change through existing social and political structures. So maybe they see society and they find a solution that maybe through the government or through a nonprofit that exists to help solve these problems. Okay? They believe that economic growth can be balanced with environmental sustainability. Okay? So you can help the environment, but you can also help the economy. You can balance the two. Okay? So an ecocentrist might prioritize, and actually would prioritize, the environment or economic growth because they prioritize the environment over humans. An environmental manager thinks it should be balanced. A technocentrist believes that economic growth is helping the environment. So there's this kind of a spectrum there of different beliefs. Okay? Environmental managers believe the earth needs tending. The word for this is stewardship. So again, they manage the environment. They need to take care of the environment. Humans need to take care of the environment. And again, the most important thing, they use the government to legislate and protect the environment. Now, cornucopians. Okay? Cornucopian believes that there will be enough resources on Earth for all humans in the future. And they believe that technological progress can solve any problems that occur. In other words, they believe everything will be fine, and they're optimists. They don't think environmental issues are problems, as humans will simply solve them. We don't have to worry about the environment, because humans will solve any problem that happens with technology. Okay? And in their eyes, humans come first. So if we want to cut down the rainforest for our use, we can. We'll figure it out in the future. As long as we want it, we can do it. So they are very optimistic. They don't really care about the environment in this traditional way. And this is why we might consider them to be a little bit anthropocentric, because they have this humans come first philosophy. And again, this is another way of viewing this. You can think of a deep ecologist as being a more extreme version of an ecocentric person. Cornucopian is a more extreme version of a technocentric person. Okay, an environmental manager is a more extreme version of an anthropocentric person. Okay. Let's talk about environmental systems a little bit more, right? So again, according to the IB, an environmental value system might be considered a system in the sense that it may be influenced by education, experience, culture, and media. These are the inputs. It involves a set of interrelated premises, values, and arguments that can generate consistent decisions and evaluations. Okay? So this basically says your past and your culture and your education are your inputs. They help create your environmental value system. And as a result, you get these outputs, which are your actions and decisions and opinions. Okay? And again, the simple definition of that, the value people have about the environment is an environmental value system. It is influenced by their education, experience, culture, and media, and the results are their decisions, actions, and opinions. So this is an example of what we're talking about. So this is Sally's environmental value systems, and we have a systems diagram that shows this. So here on the top we have the inputs. The inputs for Sally are her education. So there's no college degree here. We have in her culture, her father is a Buddhist, and maybe her community is more Buddhist. Okay? The media, she watched a video once about global warming being a hoax, which a hoax is like Japan, it's a scam, right? And then experience. These are conversations with her neighbors. And if you want to see what I'm talking about, this is the Chinese translation. Again, you can pause the video if you want to look at it. These inputs became her environmental value systems, and then as a result, she has these outputs. She decided to become a vegetarian. Maybe because she is a Buddhist, she decided to become a vegetarian. Opinion. She has the opinion that global warming is false. It's not true. Why? Because she watched a video once and it convinced her. And then the decision, she wants to buy a hybrid car. Okay, like a eco-friendly car. Okay, maybe that's from her conversations with her neighbors. Her neighbors have a hybrid car and convinced her that it's the right decision. Okay, so again, you have your inputs. They become your environmental value system. These are your storages. And then your outputs, your decisions, your actions, your opinions. Okay? Oh, I think we're almost done with 1.1. Historical influences on the environmental movement. So we will not go into this too much. I will create maybe a file, and hopefully I can leave a link to it in the info of this video that kind of translates, gives a little brief summary of each of these things. But in this course, you are expected to know about, these are called case studies. These are, think of it like examples, specific historical examples that show something. So these are things that happened that helped influence the environmental movement, helped us develop our views on the environment. Some of these were environmental disasters. We had the Minamata disease in Japan, the Bhopal gas tragedy, Chernobyl, Fukushima. These all helped change people's views on the environment. Silent Spring by Rachel Carson, Limits to Growth by Club of Rome, and then Gaia by James Lovelock. Yeah, Media, The Inconvenient Truth by Davis Guggenheim, Earth Day, some international agreements here, kind of mostly in the UN. The UN created some agreements that ended up impacting the environmental movement. And then technological innovation, the Green Revolution, renewable energy development. Okay? Again, I will not talk about it in this video, but for the test, you should know 3 of these. Okay? And if it asks a question, you would be able to go into detail about these things. Okay, so if it asks a question about historical influences on the environmental movement, you can mention three of these things, right? And how, and also be able to explain how they influenced the environmental movement. Okay. Now, let's finish off 1.1 by talking about the pros and cons of each environmental value system. Because they're not all perfect, right? So, for example, an ecocentric environmental value system has some ideals. One is maybe it's just morally right. Okay, maybe it's the more compassionate view to take care of animals, to take care of the environment, to not worry about humans, but to care about the world that is not yourself. Okay, so that might be a reason why people are drawn toward ecocentrism. And maybe you could argue that, there's, well, I don't know, is it 8 billion now? There's more than 7.5 billion people on Earth, right? If we all did our small part, then maybe the environment would be a lot better. If we all tried hard, these small actions would end up helping the Earth, right? We can live sustainably. So that would be like a pro of ecocentrism. And a con might be that you can argue that it's maybe not as effective. For example, if me, you, and 20 people all live out in nature, we are making a very small impact. Yes, it's a positive impact, but a company polluting a river is a way bigger impact than whatever impact that an ecocentrist might be able to pull off. Additionally, it's hard to convince a billion people to become an ecocentrist and be helping the environment. It makes it seem like a much harder climb. So that's another con. Whereas an anthropocentrist, if you're going to your legislator, we get just a small group of people to talk to their government and pressure their government, then that's maybe a much quicker way of affecting the environment. So that might be a pro of anthropocentrism, right? The impacts of laws and the impacts of fines might be more effective on a larger scale than ecocentrism and might be more feasible, right? Now, the cons of it, there are a few. So one is that often that process is very slow and often not so successful, right? We care about humans, but most humans care about money more than the environment, right? So to be able to change people to care about the environment, to create laws, you need more of an ecocentric approach, right? You need to care about the environment, but most people care about their pocketbook, their money. So if there's ever like a public debate about what to do, often people will not support protecting the environment. They're going to support helping the business. And that's often why we see, places around the world where, pollution is rampant, widespread, everywhere, right? We come to this fork in the road, this place where we make the decision and we choose money instead. So that's a downside of anthropocentrism. Technocentrism has its pros and cons. Again, the pros might be it could be the most effective if done correctly. So if we create solar panels that can give us unlimited energy, like almost like huge batteries that can provide us with unlimited energy. Boy, that would change the problem a lot. Maybe we won't need gas cars anymore. We would all have electric cars, and all these businesses, it'll be very cheap to use more environmentally friendly energy sources. Okay, so the potential of technocentric solutions is very high. The con of the technocentric approach is, one, it's not guaranteed. There's lots of money to create these solutions, but they take a long time to develop, and sometimes they never develop. We've been trying to create new energy sources for decades and decades and decades, and they're still not fully here. We're still using gas cars, right? So the amount of damage that we do will be too much before we create the technological solutions that we think will happen. But again, there's no guarantee. And again, it might be too late by the time we do develop these technologies. So that would be the con of a technocentric approach, and especially maybe a cornucopian who believes, oh, just cut it all down, we'll figure it out later. Well, if we never figure it out later, then we really made the problem much worse. So that would be another big con of technocentric approaches. Okay, so it seems like we're about done with this part. Again, this is the summary. An environmental value system is a worldview that shapes the way people and groups view environmental issues. Okay? And just to finish off, right? This is an opinion poll from 2014 about people's values when it comes to nature. And you can see here, most people believe that kind of the ecocentric viewpoint, right? Nature has intrinsic value. Okay, we should take care of nature because it's the right thing to do, because nature needs taking care of. And only a very small amount, maybe 28%, agree that nature is kind of more for human use. That's why we appreciate it. I will mention that this is from kind of European perspectives. So maybe if you are in China, for example, they might have a different view on this, but it's worth noting the way that people view this. So that's just food for thought to end this off. I have test strategies for this because, again, this is a topic that will eventually come up on the test, or there's a good chance, excuse me. So we need to be able to think about how to answer these questions. But I'm going to save that for another time because these videos end up, there's maybe too much information for now. So maybe on a different video, we'll talk about how to answer an essay question about environmental value systems. Because it might seem very scary to write an essay on this topic, but there's a kind of a structure that if you learn it, you should, if you follow my advice, you should be able to get a high score, like a 7, 8, or 9 on that essay portion. That's my opinion. But again, we'll save that for another video. For now, I'm just going to end it, right? And then we'll get into 1.2 in a second, okay?